Today is day 7, wrapping up the first week of my road trip. I'm going to do that with a whole lot of driving. I'm going from where I stayed around Traverse City all the way up to Michigan's Upper Peninsula to Pictured Rocks Natural Lakeshore, where I'm going to camp tonight. I got my day started about 20 minutes south of Traverse City, where I stayed last night in a hostel in Interlaken. Walked across the street to Bud's restaurant, had a cup of coffee, and then drove up the Traverse City and then into the Mission Peninsula, which juts out into the Grand Traverse Bay, and it's just blanketed in vineyards, wineries, and things like that. So drove out to the lighthouse at the very And now I'm headed up Cherry Orchards Drive, which will take me all the way up to Cross Village, near Mackinac City, where the strait from the lower to the upper peninsula is. This stretch from Traverse City up through Charlevoix and Petoskey is made up of a whole bunch of old lumber towns. At least that's how they were founded in the mid-19th century. And now they've kind of turned into resort towns for higher-end tourists. Notably, however, this is also the area where Hemingway spent his summers in his youth, so especially up in Petoskey. So I'm going to head up that way and see some of the sites that get mentioned in his short stories and his novels, like the novel The Torrents of Spring and his short story Up in Michigan. So in Hortons Bay, I stopped at the Hortons Bay General Store, which Hemingway used to frequent, the Red Fox Bookstore Inn, which Hemingway used to go to as well, and the owners of which he was good friends with. And then Horton Creek, where he used to fish. And he wrote about all those places in his short stories. And then I went up to Petoskey, just like 15 minutes from there. Went to the Little Traverse Historical Museum, which has a little Hemingway exhibit, and some other areas in town before heading up the rest of the Cherry Orchards Drive as featured in the National Geographic Scenic Highways and Byways. And that took me up Michigan 119, which was a beautiful ride through these woods on a cliff overlooking Lake Michigan. And then I followed that pretty much all the way up to Mackinac City. And now I just got across the Mackinac Strait, so I'm in Sault Ste, which is the town on the other side of the strait in the Upper Peninsula, and I'm on my way to Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie is actually the oldest American city and the third oldest in Michigan. It was founded in 1688. It sits right on the St. Mary's River, which connects Lake Superior to all the other Great Lakes, and in particular, it's right at the intersection of Lake Superior, Lake Huron, and Lake Michigan. It actually has a sister city in Canada, also called Sault Ste. Marie, just on the other side of the river. So I'm headed out of Sault Ste. Marie. I saw the lock system, which is cool. It just looks exactly the same as you would see on any old canal system. It still uses gravity to transport the boats up and down. There's no new pump systems or anything like that. It is Independence Day, and there was definitely a big parade about to happen. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay because I'm racing the sun to go finish out the last portion of my day, which is a drive along Whitefish Bay. So hopefully I get to see that as the sun's setting. So interestingly, in the hostel last night, I met a girl from the UK who was here in the U.S. visiting her dad, but in the UK she had studied ecology in school and gone on to do work in conservation and wilderness protection in that area. But because of Brexit, a lot of the work that she does is being put at risk because the environmental regulations and conservation policies mostly come from the EU. And if Brexit goes through, then a lot of those policies go away, and that puts at risk a lot of funding, a lot of conservation efforts, and her job in particular. So she's actually interested in moving to the United States because we have such a robust conservation effort and a lot more job opportunities than she would have in the UK in that area. So I'm now on the Whitefish Bay Scenic Byway. I just left Point Iroquois Lighthouse, which is so named, I guess, because there was a battle between the Iroquois Nation War Party and the local tribes, where the Iroquois lost and all their bones were buried at that point. But it was significant because the Iroquois Nation was huge at the time, and that was the end of their westward expansion. So that was like the Waterloo of the Iroquois Nation. So it's 8:30 and I decided I'm just going to call it a day. I planned to finish the Whitefish Bay Scenic Byway and then go all the way to Painted Rocks National Lakeshore and stay there tonight. But it's a little bit aggressive, and I don't want to miss the Scenic Byway by driving through it at night. And I also don't want to be setting up my campground in the dark, ideally. So I'm just going to stop at Bayview Campground here in the middle of the Scenic Byway, or along the Scenic Byway, and I'm going to pick back up tomorrow early, finish the drive, and then go out, spend some time at Painted Rocks National Lakeshore, and then head to Three Lakes, Wisconsin, where I'm going to stay the night. That's it for today. So yesterday didn't actually end quite like that. I tried to go get a spot at Bayview Campground, but it was totally full. And then I moved on to this other state forest a little bit farther up the road. That too was totally full. There's hundreds of spots taken by people in giant RVs, these huge tents, and it was just totally crowded with people. So I moved on from there and ended up getting a hotel room in Paradise, Michigan. Really had no other choice at that point. It's actually the first hotel room I've stayed in at the time. It was a little expensive. I paid $77 for it, but it ended up being okay because there was actually a fireworks show in town, and so I ran down from my hotel to the community center, and there was a ton of people laid out on blankets and in lawn chairs and all that. So it was kind of cool to see the fireworks show in a little small town.